Hey Ron, and welcome back to my series where I go position by position and basically make a tier list where I evaluate each prospect and tell you if they're going to make the Olympic team for the 2024 Paris Olympics or the U.S. men's national team U23s. And I just want to jump right in. So, again, we have the five tier starter, backup, fringe, long shot, and abyss. Number one is Jaden Reed from New York Red Bulls. I think he went to the University of Connecticut in college. I'm going to put him in long shot because he's mainly an MLS Next Pro guy. And some of the people later in this list have already started in the MLS. So I don't think he's going to crack this roster. He is an 01, so he has the age advantage. But again, very low likelihood. I would say a long shot is like 1% or less. Uh, anyway, next guy, Ian Hoffman, also an 01, plays in Norway. I'm going to put him in long shot because Norway is definitely below the MLS. I would say it's kind of the equivalent of playing for like the USL Championship team. I'm pretty sure he used to play at the Houston Dynamo, but I don't remember if they didn't offer him a new contract or what. But anyway, next guy is definitely a familiar face with the senior team, and that's George Bello. I'm gonna put him in fringe. He was getting regularly called up when he was playing for Atlanta United. Then he went off to a Bundesliga team, I think Arminia Bielefeld. I don't know how to pronounce the team's name. They got relegated. He's barely played in the Bundesliga 2, and now he's out of contract. I don't know if they terminated it or if he only signed a 2-year deal. He's probably going to head back to the MLS. I definitely want to give him like my respect for challenging himself, but it is obvious that either he took too big a step up too early or he's just not going to cut it. Though, anyway, I think his ceiling is next bet like six best leagues or slash very low end starter for top five league. Though honestly, he's not going to raise our ceiling. He'll definitely raise the floor of the MLS, but for this roster, I don't think he's the best option. Next one, Adam Armour plays in the USL Championship. I'm just going to put him in long shot. He's on loan from Charlotte, but he is an 0-2, and at this point, you would want him to start getting regular MLS minutes, but he just hasn't yet. So that's why I put him in long shot. Jonathan Gomez, someone who's familiar with the national team, definitely knows this story. Huge dual national recruiting battle 2 years ago when he was 18 and playing for Louisville City FC. Now that's really cooled off. I'm going to put him back up. He is with Real Sociedad B. He's basically the star down there, but people thought that he would be with the senior team by now. And he did start for the U.S. in the U20 World Cup, but he was on the right side because he was displaced by someone else I'm going to talk about later. Upside, he definitely has a high upside. I would say it would match our ceiling, plus maybe above, though I don't think that's as likely. He needs to either break in the first team or try to get a loan to the Spanish second tier just to get higher quality playing time, because right now he's just kind of stuck in this limbo. Anyway, we should move on. Next guy down here is John Tolkien. There are a lot of John Tolkien supporters, and I kind of flip flopped just on my assessment of him, and I think he is backup material. He's going to be pushing for that second spot, and the reason why is because yes, he's definitely one of the best left backs in MLS. The problem is he doesn't have those high end tools. I really do not think he's going to be better than Anthony Robinson. He's certainly not going to raise our ceiling. I think his ceiling really is outside Premier League top five starter or next best six leagues starter, which definitely will raise the floor slash ceiling of the MLS. But and again, I know a lot of people are high on him. He just hasn't quite shown enough yet at his age. And I think there's actually someone better in this age group, though. I would say he probably has a higher probability of making the backup spot than Jonathan Gomez. But, it's still going to be an open race. Next guy, an 03. So, again, we're already going to the younger groups. Jacob Green, I'm going to put him on fringe. He is playing with DC United pretty now. I think he's starting to get a starting spot, though there are other players I think are just more established than him. Definitely has a shot. I wouldn't say the longest shot. I would say around 5%. He needs to really start balling out for DC if he wants to push for that U.S. Olympic spot. Next guy, Caleb Wiley, Atlanta United. Some people who follow the senior team know who he is. He's more well known in the youth league, like the people who follow the youth teams. And people who do know that he is most likely going to be the starter. And I know this might be a hot take for some people, though he has the high end tools to basically be better than Anthony Robinson, to be definitely a top, like a Premier League starting player, and mainly just like the outside of the big clubs. I would say Aston Villa, and very, very optimistic would be like Tottenham. But again, he has the athleticism, he has like the technique. He's still very raw, and like he's barely in 04. He's basically in 05. So he's only a couple of days for being eligible to represent in the next U20 World Cup. He's been inconsistent, so he needs to find consistency. But I think slash hope in 1 year's time that he's going to be like the guy for this position, and probably entertaining Europe offers by then, because I really think that he can be this good. Eddie Howe. Next one up is I guess not an O3, but is an O3. Joey Skinner plays with Nashville SC's on the roster spot. He's been only in MLS Next Pro, so that's why I'm going to put him in long shot. Doesn't have the experience to get up there, but might become an average MLS left back, which by average MLS player, I predict that to be raised within the next 5 years because of this new U setup. All right. Anyway, next guy we have here is Zach Farnsworth from Real Salt Lake. I'm going to have to put him in Abyss because he's injured and he's just not going to have enough time to like establish himself even as a long shot, I believe. He was getting some minutes, I think, in MLS/MLS Next Pro, but just not enough. Speaking of some minutes, Noah Allen has really stepped up his game, and believe is going to be pushing for that starting spot at the Inter Miami left back. That's why I'm going to put him as fringe. He does have some pretty steep competition there, but I hope he can essentially improve his game. He was with CONCACAF U20 Championship. He was one of the starting left backs. That was because Jonathan Gomez and Caleb Wiley didn't get released, so it's kind of the third string in that U20 age group. But again, with Jacob Green, I think he's around that mold. I think he can become a MLS starter, very nailed on starter within the next year to 2 years. So that is looking good for the improvement of the MLS as a league as a whole. And it shows that we are raising our ceiling. I'm not ceiling, our floor. Though the ceiling, again, needs more improvement because, quite honestly, you'd hope that you can get more than just one Caleb Wiley per every 3 to 4 years. But anyway, next one, Isaiah Parker. I'll try to speak this long shot. Plays in San Antonio FC in the USL Championship. Doesn't quite have enough. Same kind of similar with the 03 here as Isaiah Foster, though he was a lot better in the USL Championship, but he has not been able to establish himself with FC Cincinnati. So I'm going to put him in long shot. He is playing for the best team in MLS, so I'll give him that. But if he wants to be considered, he needs to push for that starting spot. So I'm thinking that, honestly, at this point, playing again in the USL Championship would have done him better than MLS Next Pro because of how wildly ranging the quality of that league is. All right. Anyway, next one is one of Colorado FC's more youth prospects that this kind of shows you, and Jackson Travis. I'm gonna put him in long shot. I think he's kind of the borderline going to play the senior team right now. He's only MLS Next Pro. He did sign a homegrown deal. So if he wants to, again, I don't think he's going to be able to push for this in time, though he eventually, I hope Colorado like integrates him with the senior team, because I think we need to do that more with these youth players. But anyway, long shot for him. Next guy up, Devin Paddleford of Minnesota United. One of the very few youth prospects I've gotten like really any minutes with Minnesota, because they are very, very bad at developing talent. I'm gonna put him in long shot, same mold, mainly an MLS Next Pro guy. Hopefully, he can become a starter for Minnesota United, so they can realize that they can, if they invest in their youth academy, they don't have to like spend 1.5 million per like, or to 3 million per player, especially with the inflating market. It just will be cheaper. You can spend like 1.5 million to get 3 quality MLS starters. But anyway, enough of my ranting. Next guy up is another USL Championship player. I have to remember his name. Plays for, honestly, a team that I actually didn't know had a USL Championship team, because it's not like really that big of a market, because it's like more South Texas. It's Thomas Rittondale. I'm gonna put in the same long shot in 02. But if you're not in the MLS, you really have a small chance of making this roster. But again, it's worth mentioning him just to kind of tell you the progress. Same as Aldera Sanchez, Sacramento Republic, long shot needs to be in the MLS really to be considered. But finally is Alex Villanueva, same mold with Orange County. Again, I'm going to put him in long shot, because if you want to be considered, you have to be pushing for an MLS spot. But anyway, that is the tier list. Again, if I had to bet money on who I think the two left backs would be, it would be Caleb Wiley and John Tolkien, with my obvious pick being Caleb Wiley for starting. Though, as most things, this tier list will probably change by the time the Olympic squad is ready to be announced. We could see one make a giant leap or someone else make a giant fall off. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Right backs will be next. And I hope you guys have a good day.